Production stills from Season 1, Episode 12 of Legends of the Golden Child, entitled Grinding Cogs, Twisted Spirit. Episode 12, written and directed by Gillian Eresh, who went on famously to martyr herself in the Second Uprising against the Empire of the Bleeding Eye, opens with a bedraggled and delirious man stumbling through the desert under the baleful orb of the Beggar's Star. Spying a series of esoteric symbols on a rocky outcrop, he rushes over, obviously delighted. He pries open a hidden panel to reveal a squirming mass of wires, spinning gears, and glowing cylinders. His maniacal laughter is cut short as he realizes a terrible mechanical monstrosity is rising from beneath the sand behind him, and as a shadow falls across his face, we cut away. Back in Wizard's Bend, Mayor Brilbosh is addressing a town meeting. Due to recent troubling occurrences, the town elders have decided that an event is in order to lift spirits and bring the community together. A science fair will be held under the next pregnant swelling of the shuddering moon. To the inventor of the most miraculous machine, tonic or alchemical equation, go the spoils. This announcement is met with a great clamor of excitement from the gathered townsfolk, and the inspirations of the local scientific community are set aflame. What follows is a montage of disjointed scenes of Wizard's Bend inventors, alchemists, engineers, and mathematicians experimenting with their new creations in their laboratories to various degrees of tragedy and success. Various interdimensional portals are opened, time loops created, infectious diseases spread, animals and people alike mutated, devious torture devices invented, not to mention a series of immolations, disintegrations, explosions, and accidents involving various corrosive liquids. Finally, the day of the science fair arrives, and the people of Wizard's Bend gather to witness the miracles of the modern age on display in the town hall. After a humorous scene involving petty local politics amongst the judges, the grand prize is awarded to Hubert Humfrington and his marvelous talking man, an automaton whom he claims has the intelligence of a small child, or a pig. It is dramatically revealed to the viewer that Humfrington is none other than the man from the desert in the opening scene as he walks on stage to demonstrate his creation. With the flick of a switch, the talking man grinds to life and begins to utter a series of blasphemous and terrible proclamations in an uncanny, metallic monotone, finally repeating over and over, "The golden child shall flood the world with tears." Disturbed, the crowd flees screaming, and many are crushed to death in the resulting stampede. Humfrington merely stands there grinning, and as the camera zooms in on his smile, we see a tiny squirming wire emerging from each of his rusty iron teeth. Before the credits, there is one final scene of a small child staring at her reflection in a pool of blood on the floor of the town hall. After an uncomfortable silence, she says simply, "Surely to allow a machine to think is the greatest evil of all." Translucent Shard magazine called the episode heavy-handed, incoherent, and scientifically inaccurate. Episode 13 opens with a long pan across the desolate prairie, with the holocamera finally settling on an uncanny effigy of unknown providence, surrounded by a score of what seem to be worshippers or cultists. A haunting melody plays, and we hear the voice of Charles Sugarwater, the faith healer introduced in Episode 8, proclaim, "The golden child shall be born of fire and filth." The shot dissolves, and we find ourselves in a dusty chapel with Sugarwater preaching in a bold fashion upon the nature of his own divinity. Suddenly he becomes aware that his parishioners are no more than decaying corpses, and unlike many of the revenants now familiar to the citizens of Wizard's Bend, they are quite inanimate. Sugarwater is then confronted by the horse demon Drashog, played by the horse demon actor Phileas Grax, who utters, "Nay, you are not the golden child." Weeping, Sugarwater awakens, and it is revealed that the events thus far have been an alcohol-induced nightmare, as Sugarwater, unable to establish himself as a religious figure of any note in the town of Wizard's Bend, has fallen on hard times. In a somewhat clumsy voiceover as he writes a letter in his flophouse lodgings to some unknown correspondent, Sugarwater complains of the competing cults and sects that have sprung up in the town since his arrival. "My cosmic right, to shine forth my godhood upon the human cattle of this town," he writes, "has been usurped by these unworthy interlopers. Charles then wanders the streets of Wizard's Bend, drunkenly encountering and hurling abuse at some of these interlopers, many of them bearing weird statues of golden children, objects of fascination to many of the townsfolk. Sugarwater ends up on the southern fringe, and we see his silhouette staggering towards the predatory lights of the Circus of the Void before the scene dissolves to black. Episode 13 ends with a shot of the high palace of the Kingdom of CYPHLON. A long tracking shot enters through a high window and wends its labyrinthine way through the maddening corridors. Finally, we come to rest in an inner chamber, and we see an Eidolonian acolyte instructed by a sinister, off-camera whisper to go forth to the realm of the daydreamers and crush the chosen one to dust. Children's entertainment periodical The Spiral Mist called Episode 13 another incoherent mess, and called for the flaying of writer-director Sharmal of Freaks, who subsequently fled the lower hierarchy for the upper, where he works as a caterer on the set of the hit soap opera Hashtaron's Dilemma to this day.